Hello everyone. In this video, I will be discussing AWS Private Certificate Authority and the Connector for Simple Certificate Enrollment Protocol, or SCEP. I will first give you an overview of AWS Private Certificate Authority, or AWS Private CA, followed by discussing Connector for SCEP and its ability to integrate with popular mobile device management systems such as Microsoft Intune, accompanied by a demonstration. Alright, now let's get started. AWS Private CA is a highly available, versatile CA that helps organizations secure their applications and devices using private certificates. You can create your own root CAs or subordinate CAs using AWS Private CA. This allows you to have full control over your public key infrastructure, or PKI, without having to manage the underlying CA infrastructure. Using your CAs created with AWS Private CA, you can issue private X509 certificates for TLS, code signing, machine authentication, and more. Private certificates can be used to secure internal applications and services with encrypted communication, authenticate users, devices, and APIs within your organization, and to cryptographically sign code and software artifacts. So what are connectors? Connectors would allow you to replace existing CAs with AWS Private CA for environments with an established native certificate distribution solution. By using connectors, you can use AWS Private CA as a single CA solution for a variety of enterprise use cases, including mobile devices, Kubernetes, and Active Directory Certificate Services, or ADCS. Connectors for SCEP allow you to use AWS Private CA with SCEP-compatible applications, clients, and endpoints. Typically, this means mobile device management solutions. Now this brings us to AWS Private CA Connector for SCEP. As we mentioned earlier, SCEP is the Simple Certificate Enrollment Protocol, which is a widely adopted protocol for getting digital identity certificates from a certificate authority and distributing them to mobile devices and networking gear. You can use AWS Private CA to enroll your mobile devices and networking gear, and it works with popular mobile device management solutions. These MDM solutions allow administrators to control and enforce policies on these connected devices. These MDM solutions also ensure these devices are in a more secure state before accessing corporate resources. Lastly, MDM solutions allow for the separation of personal and work data on a device for bring your own device. There are two types of connectors for SCEP. The first is a general-purpose connector that is designed to work with endpoints that support SCEP. The other type is a connector designed to work with Microsoft Intune, which is a cloud-based endpoint management solution. This video will discuss the AWS Private CA Connector for SCEP integrated with Microsoft Intune. One thing to note, using the connector for SCEP does not require you to use an MDM solution, but it is a very popular use case. Alright, with that being said, let's jump into a demonstration of using AWS Private CA Connector for SCEP with Microsoft Intune. The first step in creating a connector for SCEP is to create a private CA. I went ahead and pre-created a CA for the purposes of this video. If you are unfamiliar with the AWS Private CA service or console, please refer to the AWS Private CA video titled ACM PCA, Creating a New Private Certificate Authority. The link will be in the description of this video below. In case you want to follow along with this demo, I created a root CA for demonstration purposes with the general purpose mode. This is required for creating a connector for SCEP. I left most of the subject options blank except for the common name, which I called Demo CA. I selected RSA 2048 as my key algorithm, although any option will work with connectors for SCEP. For revocation options, I did not select either CRL or OCSP, as I will proceed without revocation for the purposes of this demo. Just note that certificate revocation lists and OCSP are both options for checking the revocation status of certificates. I went ahead and installed the CA certificate from the Actions dropdown in the console, making my CA in the active state. I can now issue certificates from the CA. I also went ahead and exported the CA certificate to a file called certificate.pem. You will want to do this as well, as we will need it later when we are setting up our connector for SCEP. Alright, now let's go straight into setting up a connector for SCEP with Microsoft Intune. Now let's create a connector for SCEP. I will start by clicking the Create Connector button, and now we're presented with some options for our connector. I will go ahead and give my connector a name such as Demo Connector. Now here we have two different connector types as we mentioned earlier. The general purpose connector type is designed to work with endpoints and applications that support SCEP. This will work for many different types of MDMs. If you're using Microsoft Intune, you will use the Microsoft Intune type connector of the private CA connector for SCEP. For this video, I will demonstrate setting up a Microsoft Intune type connector. So I will go ahead and select Microsoft Intune. Now at this point, we'll have to go into the Azure portal and perform a few steps to allow the connector for SCEP to be able to access Microsoft Intune. So in the Azure portal, I searched for app registrations, which brought me here to this page. Under app registrations, I will click New Registration. I will enter in the name field, Test App, and I will leave all other fields as default. Now we have created an application within Azure. If we go back to the private CA connector for SCEP console, we will see that in order to create our Microsoft Intune type connector, we need an application ID and a directory ID. So I will go ahead and copy those values from the application we just created in Azure. So I'll go copy those fields and paste them here. Now I will select my private CA that I created in the previous step. So I'll scroll down, select my private CA, and then click Create Connector. So now behind the scenes, the CA is being shared with the connector for SCEP service and an endpoint is being created. One difference with the Microsoft Intune type connector versus general purpose connectors is the challenge password is managed in Microsoft Intune. A challenge password is a shared secret that needs to be distributed out to your clients and MDMs to authenticate a request before issuing a certificate from your CA. Whereas with general purpose connectors, the console will create a challenge password for you as a managed service. This happens on your behalf and allows you to give proper identity and access management to control who has access to these passwords. You can also rotate them within the console or via the API or CLI. So now that we've created a Microsoft Intune type connector, we can move to the next step, which is setting up access in Azure. So let's go back to the Azure portal. Under the app registration that I just created called Test App, I will click on Certificates and Secrets on the left-hand side, and then click on Federated Credentials. Then I'll go ahead and click the Add Credential button. And from the drop-down, I will select Other Issuer. So now we will go back to the private CA connectors for SCEP console, and we're going to copy and paste the fields over for Issuer, Subject, and Audience. So I'll go ahead and copy those over. And then here for the credential name, I will call it Test. And then I'll click Add. And so now my connector for SCEP has access to Microsoft Intune. Now we're going to configure the permissions that the connector for SCEP has on my Microsoft Intune configuration. So here I'll click on API permissions on the left-hand side. Then we'll go ahead and click Add Permissions. These are the permissions that the connector for SCEP will use. On the screen that pops up, you can click Intune. And now we can click Application Permissions, and in the search bar, search for SCEP. We'll click the checkbox and click Add Permissions. Now we will add another permission, this time for Microsoft Graph. So click Microsoft Graph. And again, we'll click Application Permissions. Then we'll scroll down and look for Applications. We'll select Application Read All. And add permissions. And now we will click the Grant Admin Consent for Amazon button. So now we have set up our connector for SCEP to have access to Intune. The next step is to set up a configuration profile that Intune can use to push SCEP certificates and SCEP trusted user profiles to my devices. So now I'll head over to Microsoft Intune. You'll see here I'm in the Microsoft Intune Admin Center portal. On the left-hand side, we'll click Devices, and then we'll click Configuration. So now we can click on the Create button, and then we'll add a new policy. And here we're actually going to create two configuration profiles. For the first configuration profile, I will select my device that I will be using, which is a Windows device for platform. And then for profile type, I'll select Trusted Certificate. So this means we're going to use our root CA's CA certificate that we created earlier as the trusted certificate that ends up on our device's trust store. I'll go ahead, click Create, and name this Trusted Certificate. Click Next. And now we need to upload the certificate. So if you remember, I exported the certificate earlier, and now here I will upload it, but I have to change the .pem to a .serve file. So I'll go ahead and do that. Once I change it, I will upload it here. Then we can click Next. And now we can click Add All Devices. That will add all devices that are Windows machines that enroll to my Intune to have the certificate added to its trust store. So we'll click Next and then Create. And then we can click Refresh to see the policy that we just created. And there it is. So now the second configuration profile that we'll create using the same steps that we used to create our first configuration profile, except this time we'll select SCEP certificate as the profile type. So I select Windows and then SCEP certificate. And this will cause Intune to push a configuration profile to your device, and then your device will go and make a request to the connector for SCEP to actually issue a certificate. So we'll name this SCEP certificate. And then we'll click Next. And for the certificate type, we'll select Device. And for subject name format, we will name it Testing. And just be sure to put it in the format that I entered here. For alternative name, I will leave this as the default. You can configure the validity period of your certificate, which I will also leave as the default. And then we have for key storage provider, we'll go ahead and we'll select Enroll to Trusted Platform Module KSP if present, otherwise Software KSP. For key usage, we can select both digital signature and key encipherment. Then we can scroll down. For key size, we'll select 2048. And for the hash algorithm, we'll select SHA-2. Now we'll click on the root certificate and we'll select our trusted certificate, which is our CA certificate, and click OK. For extended key usage, I will go ahead and choose any purpose under predefined values. Then we have the renewal threshold, which means that your certificates will be renewed when 20% of its lifetime remains, which we'll leave as the default. And now we have to enter our SCEP server URL, which is the connector for SCEP URL So we'll switch back to the private CA connector for SCEP console and copy the public SCEP URL and paste it here. Then we'll click Next. And again, we have to add all devices. Click Next, and then Create. Now we'll refresh again, and we'll see our second configuration profile. Great. Now that we have everything set up, let's see how we can enroll our device in Microsoft Intune and see those certificates pushed to it. To do this, you will need to download the Company Portal app. I went ahead and did this already and signed in using my Microsoft Intune credentials, which is just my username and password. Now in this wizard, I will enroll my Windows machine to Microsoft Intune. So I'll click this initial link to set up. Then I'll click Next. And then I'll click Connect. On the screen that pops up, and click Next. So now it's connecting to my organization, and this may take a minute to connect and enroll the device to Microsoft Intune. So let's just give it a minute. And now we can click Got It. Now it's just finishing up connecting to Microsoft Intune. Great, so now we can click Next. We'll click Done. And you will see your device that is enrolled like I have here. So once you can see your device that's enrolled, I will go over to Settings in the bottom left-hand corner. And then I will click Sync, which will pull the two configuration profiles that we just created. So this might take a second. All right, it says the sync was successful. So now if I look in my Trust Store on this machine, I should see my CA certificate. So for Windows, I will search Computer Certificates. Click Yes. And then I'll go to Trusted Root Certification. And then scroll down and find my demo CA that I had uploaded to Microsoft Intune and has now been pulled onto this machine. So now I created a Windows machine, enrolled it to Intune, and now my CA certificate that I had issued with AWS Private CA is now on this machine. And every Windows machine that gets enrolled from now on will have the same behavior. Also, if I go to Personal and Certificates, I'll be able to see the SCEP certificate that was issued as well, which it was. So what happened here is I set up this certificate with a configuration profile in Microsoft Intune, and when my Windows machine enrolled to Intune, it automatically knew to go ask the Connector for SCEP for a new certificate. So it hit the endpoint that Connector for SCEP had set up, and a certificate was issued by AWS Private CA. And that concludes this demonstration. This shows how easy it is to use and set up your AWS Private CA with a Connector for SCEP that can be used to enroll your machines and devices with Microsoft Intune. One thing to note though is if you're trying to enroll Mac OS devices to Microsoft Intune, the process is very similar with one key difference. Setting up the Connector for SCEP is exactly the same, and so is creating the app registration in Azure. When you create your device configuration profiles in Intune, you'll select Mac OS as your platform and then follow the steps that we performed in this demo for Windows devices. Some of the options are slightly different, but you could still accomplish what we just did in this demo with the options presented. However, before you enroll your device through Company Portal, you'll have to perform one additional step, which involves going to Devices, clicking Mac OS, and from there, clicking Enrollment on the left-hand side. Then click Apple MDM Push Certificate, and this is required to manage Apple devices. Then you will download an Intune certificate signing request, and then follow the link in step 3 to create your MDM Push certificate. You will need an Apple ID to obtain one, and then enter that ID in step 4. And then finally, you can upload the Apple Push certificate in this setup wizard in step 5. From there, you can proceed with enrolling your device to Microsoft Intune via the Company Portal app. In summary, the key takeaways from this video are that AWS Private CA is a highly available, fully managed CA that removes the undifferentiated heavy lifting of managing and operating on-premises private CAs. AWS Private CA supports a wide range of enterprise PKI use cases from Kubernetes to IoT devices, Active Directory, and mobile devices via connectors. AWS Private CA Connector for SCEP allows you to replace existing CAs for environments with an established native certificate distribution solution. And you can use AWS Private CA to enroll your mobile devices and networking gear with the Connector for SCEP. Thank you for watching this video on AWS Private CA Connector for SCEP. If you'd like to learn more about AWS Private CA Connector for SCEP, please consult the AWS Private CA documentation. For more information on AWS Private CA specifically, please check out some of our other videos on the service or check out the Private CA workshop. Thank you and have a great day.